Welcome back to another episode of the Doing Good podcast, where we celebrate those who are doing good. Today marks the beginning of a two-part series focusing on Persist Nashville, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to ensuring first-generation students who make it to college actually get through college and graduate. Our guest today is Miss Laurie Brown, a volunteer leader whose persistent dedication is to educational equity, an unwavering belief that every student deserves not just access to opportunity, but the support to seize it. Miss Laurie Brown, hello. Welcome to the Doing Good podcast.
Thank you. So happy that I'm here.
We're so glad you're here. Let's start by getting to know you a little bit. So first, Miss Brown, could you tell us about who you are, where you're from, and what draws you to community service?
Yeah, so my name is Laurie Brown. I'm currently the CEO of Intrepid College Prep, which is a 5 through 12 school in Antioch, Tennessee. Originally from the UK, I moved to Florida with my parents for high school. Have been here ever since.
And what draws you to community service?
Throughout my life, I've had so many people who are champions for me, so many people who have helped me along the way. And while what they were doing wouldn't be considered community service, to me, it was service to me. And so I always feel the need and compelled by the thought of paying it forward and helping others the same way that I've been helped along the way.
That's beautiful. Well, you are here today because of your volunteerism with Persist Nashville as its current board chair, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Plus, I understand you serve on the local Teach for America Nashville's collective board. Can you tell us how all that volunteer work connects to your passion through your career?
I think what it comes down to for me is the connection is advocacy, advocacy for others, and it's a continuation of advocacy that I felt has been done for me. Having champions along the way to support my career choices, to support how I thought about approaching problems, or even just to gather resources to be better at my work. There's always been someone along the way that's really supported with that. And so when it came to other additional opportunities to continue to do that, I'm seeking them in areas that I have passion, which is around education, which is around college access and persistence, and overall just advocacy in general.
Let's talk more about that in just 2 seconds because I heard you specify access and persistence. But how do you first balance all of this with life and school network with multiple volunteer activities? And what drives you to say yes to service, even with such a demanding personal life?
I think it's my love for the work. And so being board chair for Persist Nashville feels especially personal to me. I spent a good majority of my career in college access and persistence. And the work that I did there really led me to want to go back into educational leadership because I saw what our alumni were experiencing in college. There are things that we could be doing in schools to better prepare them for that. And so part of the work that I did with Access is what led me into educational leadership. And so now that I'm in leading a network of schools, there's a part of me that misses the work of supporting students in this crucial time in their life where they're making their first real big decision as an 18, 17-year-old high schooler. And then as they're going through college, they're experiencing things they've never experienced before. These are really shaping experiences for the life that they want. And I missed that. And so when I was connected with Persist Nashville, it gave me a chance to still pour into a community that I really loved. It allowed me to, use some of the muscles that I haven't been using because I'm in a different role now, and really kind of share those skills with a community that was very much like the community I worked in for so long.
You have obviously chosen uh, these specific ways for you to engage with people through work, through volunteerism, etc. So you've been able to see the college access pipeline from multiple angles now. As a teacher, as someone who secured grant funding to expand college advising, as I understand it, and now as a school leader and also as a nonprofit leader and community leader. Was there an aha moment you had about the importance of supporting students? Or did the light bulb go off, or did that understanding develop over time?
I think it developed over time. What I experienced when I was in the Arkansas Delta, I was working with families. I'm sitting down with a senior student and their parent, and they're telling me their life's dreams. They're telling me what they're hoping for their child, and their child is saying, "This is what I want for my future." And so, when you're in this really connected time where you're helping this family plan their child's future, and then they're going off, you want to make sure that that child or that student has what they need to continue, or has what they need to persist and actually graduate with that degree, because that's what their family is banking on, right? That's what their family is hoping for, and that's what they're hoping for as well. It's like, how do I make sure that you continue to have what you need and you have a network of people wherever you're going that can kind of support you to reach your goals? And that just became a really important part of who I am. So when you're sitting year over year with students and their families and you're engaging, you get to know them, you get to work with siblings, you get to work with parents multiple times. And in that work, you're like, wow, like this work that we're doing is changing the trajectory of this family. This student who is the eldest sibling, who's the first to go to college, is now created a pathway for their younger siblings to go to college. And so it's really important that experience of that first kid that goes to college being successful, having the resources is an indication to their younger siblings, oh, I can be successful. I can have the resources that I need as well. And so I think by doing it year over year, really building strong relationships with families and students led me to say, this is a crucial moment that's really impactful. And so when it comes to Persist Nashville in particular, they're doing the same thing. And because my work isn't that direct access with students and families anymore, I don't get to sit down with students and families anymore. It does feel good to be able to be a part of an organization that is sitting down with those families and is leading students and supporting them in their decision making and making sure they have what they need when they go to college. Have they registered for orientation? Have they done their housing? Have they done their financial aid? And really making sure kids have what they need to be successful. It feels, even though I don't get to do it directly anymore, it just feels good to be a part of an organization that's still doing that work.
Would you explain more about how Persist Nashville's approach addresses these challenges?
Yeah, for sure. So Persist Nashville is an organization that provides professional coaching to MNPS graduates in their first 2 years in college. And their program is kind of split into two types of coaching. So there's college enrollment coaching, which is supporting the students before they go to college. When they're a senior, they've decided, I'm going to go to this school. Persist is there to make sure, oh, have you submitted all your paperwork? Have you done your orientation? Have you done your housing? Do you know when your move-in is? Do you know when to register for classes? Do you know what you want to major in? Do you need to take summer classes? Really making sure that students have what they need from when they make the decision to go to the school and then showing up day one in the seat. Oftentimes, students can experience something called college melt, summer melt, which means they say they're going to go to college, but in the summer, there's no one checking, there's no one supporting, and they may fall off. And so the college enrollment coaching is to really make sure once a student has made that decision, they have the support that they need to make it where they want to go. And then the second part of the program is college persistence coaching, which is really once a student has enrolled and is in school, do they have the resources they need to continue to be successful, to remain in school, to make the right grades that they need, to maintain their scholarships? Do they have work to maintain things that they may need in their house and their home? And they do that through things like text based coaching, being on campus with students in one on one meetings, hosting workshops and college fairs and career fairs, as well as connecting them with on campus resources so they can build a community of where they are.
So it sounds like it touches on both the academic life as well as the personal life and the support, its foundation.
Yes, indeed. The work that they do, it's a great balance between tech support. And so a lot of text-based messaging to provide those supports and answer the questions paired with in-person work. Because sometimes if you're texting, you're like, "Are you a bot? Are you a real person?" But the great thing about Persist is they can go in person, like, "Yeah, I'm on your campus. Come and see me. Have a conversation with me. Oh, you're the person who's texting me. Yes, it's me." Like now you can respond, and now you know who you're talking to. You have a name to a face. And I think it's a great way to kind of pair what is like more text-based kind of community with like in-person work and making that connection for students.
What does your role as a board member or board chair even, uh, what does that role look like for Persist Nashville? What does it typically involve? And then how is that different or is it different than what you've already explained?
Yeah, so my work as board chair of Persist Nashville is one to be a thought partner to Jennifer Hill. She's the executive director of the organization, and so we meet monthly. We hop on the phone every 2 weeks just to make sure that if there are things that she's thinking about, how can I support those thinking? So as we're building out our organizational strategic plan, we're partnering to think about what are the core components we want to make sure that strategic plan addresses. The second piece of the work is considering who is on the board. And so it's really important to have a board with a variety of different perspectives to really improve and sharpen the work that Persist is doing. And so we do a board matrix to say, okay, we have these kinds of roles. We don't really have someone in this area. It could be helpful for us to have someone in that area. Let's see who in the community could add to the board and give us a different perspective. And then kind of really orient that person to the board. And make sure they feel connected and they're welcome and they understand their responsibilities. And the last part is really just thinking about the board structure itself. So it's not just running board meetings, but it's like, are our committees really driving the work of Persist? And so our committees at Persist Nashville include an internal focused one and an external focused one, but they also include the members of the Persist staff. And so it's really helpful when our Persist staff come to the board committee meetings because they're providing the perspective of what's actually happening. And then as board members, we can provide the step back perspective as, hey, looking in, this is what we're seeing. And then together we're able really to make adjustments in the best interest of students and their persistence as well. And so I think the way we're working together is newer, but it's really exciting and it's really designed to really fulfill our ultimate mission of ensuring our students are going to great schools and also they're persisting through with the support that they need to get there.
I love that. I love seeing new ideas put into practice and working.
Yeah. Yeah,
Imagine
and
that.
we have great board members as well, people who just really believe in the mission, like first generation college students, people who have just seen where you have support and you have a connection, how much of a difference it can make. People who have like gone to college and it's just changed the trajectory of their family. Same way it did for me as well. And so um it's just great to be a part of a group of people who are willing to invest in young people and recognize that these students that we're working with, first generation students, um, are deserve a shot and they deserve the opportunity to have the support and resources to be successful, to know that there's someone in their corner, to know that if they have a question and they don't know where to go, they can always text Persist and Persist can, if they don't know the answer, can help support them find that answer on their campus. You know, it can be lonely if you're a first generation college student, you've never been. There are things that happen, you're like, what I don't know. No one's ever told me that this is what happens at a college, and having that support system can go a long way in making sure that student knows, hey, just because you're new here and you've never been here doesn't mean you don't belong here. And if you need support, we're here to support you. And if you need a connection, we're here to help you connect with your campus. But I think it's a beautiful thing that there's people who recognize that our students deserve an advocate. Our students deserve someone who's in their corner and someone who can provide support and provide guidance for things that they may not know or may not realize that they need.
So it sounds ideal. Well, do you have a success story of someone who's really stayed with you for one reason or another? Would you mind sharing a story like that with us?
My work with Persist is as a board chair is not directly impacted. I don't work directly with students. But I think the success story that comes to mind is the work that Persist staff have done around 2-year community college graduation rates. Across the nation, community college graduation rates are always going to be lower than 4-year college graduation rates. And I've always seen from my work in Arkansas that community college students need a different level of attention, and different skill development than a 4-year college student needs because there are different pathways. And so I've seen Persist this last 2 years really invest in supporting community college students. And through that, these past 2 years has dramatically increased the persistence rates for those students. We were at the board meeting and I told everyone, like, wow, this is really, really great work that you guys are doing. And getting that niche of 2-year graduates to complete or to get enough credits to transfer to a 4-year school makes a huge difference, or have a certification completed. All of these things can change the financial trajectory of families and students. And so the work that they're doing with 2-year um, community college students right now is something that I'm really excited to continue to see develop and expand.
Well, and
Yeah.
like you said before, most of your volunteerism is with the board right now. And I'll dare say also the staff. So is there a moment through your volunteerism as it is right now that when I'll say you really saw the impact you made as a volunteer?
It's a good question. I'll talk about Gabe is someone that's on staff with Persist Nashville, and we're both kind of data nerds. We both love geeking out on data, looking at Persist data. There's so many different ways that you can look at the data. And early on, we sat down, we just talked about the different types of data that's available, how we want to look at the data, what data should we prioritize over others? And it was just fun to just sit down and nerd out with him on how to utilize data to really drive and improve outcomes, and the data you look at and the way you analyze it and the way the takeaways or the when you're looking at data, the takeaways you make impact your action. And so it was good to kind of see and have a conversation around what are the right pieces of data we should be focusing on as an organization, and how does focusing on these pieces of data in particular will that drive the outcomes of our students being staying in college and actually completing. And so I think the work that I've really enjoyed doing is with the Persist staff, brainstorming, and just thinking about ways to improve programming, and really listen for areas where they're asking for feedback, or reflections on.
I love it. And I love how that highlights also the diversity of skills and strengths that people bring to the leadership of an organization. And it doesn't matter the
Definitely.
role. It's the teamwork in it and bringing
Yes.
that all together.
Yeah. And the team at Persist is I'm really proud of the work that they're doing, and the way that they've taken on a combined approach. I mean, they've recently just been on presenting at a conference about the work that they're doing. And it's just really great to see them not only be successful and work hard for our MNPS graduates, but be intentional and thoughtful about sharing what they're learning through research and through action with others as a way to have a broader impact on Persist in the country. So, like, yes, we want Persist Nashville, our MNPS graduates, to graduate at a high rate, and if there are things that are working in Nashville that the team can share with other communities to support, that's really what we're trying to do. And so it's really great to see when they've had something and they've made a breakthrough that they're being intentional about sharing those resources with others as a way to just improve impact across the board.
And I appreciate how we're, I'll say, really getting into the specifics about Persist Nashville because that's so important and that's who we get to celebrate all month long right now. Um, but this episode is really about you as a volunteer, right? So
Mm.
I want to, so I understand with your serving on the Teach for America Nashville's collective board, in addition to Persist Nashville, in addition to your school
Yeah.
involvement and community, can you speak to, I'll say, what you have learned from your various leadership experiences that apply to all of them?
Something that I've learned that applies across the board is um, making time for something that is a passion of mine, and my heart work. It doesn't feel like an additional burden when you care so deeply about what you're talking about. And me and Jennifer talk about this all the time, where she's like, I'm so glad you're on the board, and I'm saying, Jennifer, I'm glad you want me here. Because the work that you're doing has been the work of my heart's passion for so long, and switching to a role that's still a passion that you're developing and not having access to the thing that first drew you to the role there was a disconnect. And so being able to find and really consider what things really matter to me, what things do I really care about, and how do I find ways to do that, because doing that fills my cup, right? It doesn't feel like it's draining me. There are things that drain me, but being on the Persist board is not one. It's definitely something that fills my cup, and so I think the thing that I found across the board is I'm clear on the things that fill my cup, and then finding intentional ways to do that. And I think sometimes we think about volunteerism as this really big commitment, this thing that requires hours. And I think I try and think about volunteerism in a different way. I think when I think about, I mentioned before, the champions I've had in my life, people who looked out for me, people who have guided me, those to me were examples of volunteerism. And they may not calculate it as that, but it was. And so I think sometimes instead of thinking about, "Oh, I want to volunteer, but I don't have the time to do this big thing," do you have 20 minutes to support someone who maybe you're in a job that they're interested in? Do you have 20 minutes to sit down with them and tell them about the job and give them access to the information? Or if someone's like, "Oh, I'm having this problem, do you have 30 minutes to help me think it through?" Do you have the 30 minutes? Do you have the skills? Do you have the capacity? And, I think when I think about it like that, it feels less daunting, than taking on a full project. And while I am taking on a full project by being the chair, I think it really started with these micro moments of, oh, can you support here? Can you support here? And then it's like, okay, well, let's make this a bit more consistent to kind of build and compound the impact. Um, but I think across the board, it's like finding something that connects with you, connected with me, connected with my passion, and then creating the space to do it because it fills my cup and it allows me to do other things even better.
And I so appreciate you're bringing up the idea of micro moments
Yeah,
because it does often seem like such a big commitment to so
yeah,
many, at least from my side of things, from what I'm experiencing. And really, like you said, the 20 minutes here and 30 minutes there is really what makes the biggest difference. Um, uh, I appreciate that. So you're saying that so much. So there are many people in demanding professional roles who really don't feel like they can take that on, or they don't have the capacity for volunteer work in general. So what would you say to them? What would you suggest either about time management or filling their cup, or what makes it worth the investment?
I mean, I think a demanding job, I resonate. I I resonate with having a demanding job and trying to find time. And but I think if we think about it in a different way, the way I try to think about it is volunteerism isn't this thing you give and like, okay, I've done my giving and now I'm done. Volunteering is a two-way street. You're giving your time, but you're receiving your filled cup, or you're giving your time, but you're receiving a cleaner community. You're receiving a more supportive community. You're receiving, you know, children in your community that will graduate from college and eventually will be your doctors and will be your nurses and will be people who are like in your community. And so I think when we think about volunteerism as this thing where it's like, I have to give this and it's this thing I'm giving up. and it's taking away from my energy, um, I think it's easy to say I don't have time. But I think when you see as this is an investment, that is an investment in this, but it's also an investment in me. It's also something that's going to increase my happiness. It's going to decrease my blood pressure. It's going to make me laugh. It's going to make me feel connected. It's going to get me out of the house. It's going to bring me into nature. Right? These are all things that can benefit us as people. And so I think just reframing how we think about it instead of this thing where it's like, I have to find the time. It's like, what are the things that already fill you up and how do you align what you do with those things? Like in college, for me, I really wanted a dog, but I lived in a dorm and I couldn't have a dog. And so I used to volunteer at the animal shelter. I would go down there and I would wash dogs and I would brush dogs. And, they would like, you would have to go take them on walks around the area. And like, to me, that was my outlet because I wanted a dog and I couldn't have one. So I was like, okay, well, let me go and volunteer with dogs. And like, in that same way, yes, it was taking time away, but it filled my cup because I loved animals and I loved getting to be with them in that way. And so I think it's just really finding what makes you feel connected and makes you feel alive and then crafting out space for it.
I think it also supports, I'll say, anybody's interest, whatever their
Mhm.
interest may be, whether it's
Yeah,
within the realm where they already work and have, I'll say, established skill sets, or if it's simply a passion,
right.
that's something different for them. Um, it sounds like just fill in the cup as long as that's the goal, then it doesn't matter the whether it's, doesn't matter how they do it.
Yeah, and it's everyone has something that fills their cup, something that you like to do, and it's I think sometimes we get caught up in the amount, what's the right amount to make it count, right? Versus it just counts because you showed up, right? It counts because you came, like it counts because you donated $50. It counts because you donated 100. Like everything that you do counts. And maybe don't be so hard on yourself when it comes to the amount of hours and the amount of time. Like what was your intent, right? Like in your heart, like did you have the right intent, like did you show up with an open mind and an open heart to kind of do the work? And those are the things that are going to make the difference versus just like you dragging yourself somewhere you don't want to be, and then you're like bringing like it doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't have to be that way. There's something for everyone that people can connect with, and organizations need support and like finding your space, finding your lane, finding what you care about, and it doesn't have to stay the same. It can change. Like I said, I was doing animal shelter work, right, and now I'm doing this, and so just being connected with who you are and what matters to you in that way.
Well, speaking of your animal shelter work, if that was your first, I don't know if that was your first ever volunteer experience, but then it has evolved into what you're doing today.
Yeah.
What is next for your journey as a volunteer?
It's my first year being a CEO, and so there's lots of learning that I'm doing in my role, and so and a lot of learning that takes a lot of time. But something that I've always really wanted to do is get more into child advocacy in the courts, and so I think eventually I'd love to be a CASA volunteer, a CASA volunteer, and just really do, you know, court appointed like child advocacy. One of my nieces in the UK, she has an organization she calls M Cares, and she creates little packages for those that are experiencing homelessness. And I'm really inspired by her. She's 11. I'm really inspired by her passion to do that. And so it's made me say, like, do I need to do a version of that over here? Because um, how she's approached it has really resonated with me. So I think continuing in child advocacy and finding ways to advocate and be a listening ear to children who need someone to listen to and to provide perspective for is something that I'm interested in, as well as just thinking about resources for those experiencing homelessness. Is it's not think there's a lot of data around people who are 1 or 2 paychecks away from experiencing homelessness, and I think sometimes it can seem like something that's so far removed, but it's not. People could just have a hard time, a hard month, a hard couple of months and be in a position that they never thought they would be in. And so I'm really moved by that. I haven't figured out what it's gonna look like yet, um, but it is something that I'm thinking about.
How wonderful. How wonderful for our community.
Yeah,
It's really amazing all you are able to not only bring to the students you serve currently and how to equip their support system and make sure everybody is able to best support them. Um, but uh, but yeah, it's exciting to hear the future of you and to just get an idea of the next steps you'll be taking.
yeah. Thank you, Megan, for this time. I really enjoyed the conversation. Love talking about volunteerism. I love talking about college access and persistence with Persist Nashville. Very proud to be a member of the board and the work that we're doing in Nashville for MNPS graduates. And so I'm happy to be here.
Thank you to Laurie Brown for sharing her heart and heart work with us today. In the next episode of the Doing Good podcast, we'll continue exploring Persist Nashville by hearing from staff and diving deeper into the programs which are changing students' lives. Until then, remember, extraordinary impact often begins with people who are willing to show up and fill their cup wherever their community needs them. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Doing Good podcast. If you enjoyed our conversation today, we invite you to subscribe or rate us on your favorite podcast platform. And follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, or YouTube at Doing Good TV. Doing Good is a 501c3 nonprofit. Please donate to support this podcast via the donate button on our website, doinggood.tv. And while you're there, nominate a volunteer you know for us to celebrate on a future episode. Together, let's celebrate those who are doing good.